So of course, Donald Duck, Humphrey Bear, and Mickey Mouse are not in our database, but I've removed all of
Oh,
our
darn.
names.
Humphrey Bear.
Where's the
Yeah.
bodacious bovine?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
they-
need a bodacious
Yeah.
bone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I should have done a mock database. So you're gonna see our database with all of our names. Some of us have added our website links or our links to opt into our email list. So you can use the database.
Ah,
You can just read it and click on things. You don't need to duplicate it and do your own thing with your database. But I thought this was a good opportunity to learn a little bit about how to use Airtable because it is just so powerful for so many things in your business.
mm.
So it kind of looks like a spreadsheet, but it's not a spreadsheet. It is a database. And the reason this is different, and sorry, if I could ask whoever's chewing, I think James, I'm going to mute you. Sorry, James.
Sorry about
So-
that.
Oh, that's okay. So this is not the same as a spreadsheet where every column and field is a text field. Instead, we actually have fields where you can add and make it specific to what you're trying to do. Could be an attachment, so you can add files and drop in videos and images here. We can link to another record. This is really amazing because I can go ahead and create a new table and call this maybe an interactions table.
And that's still an
And-
Airtable thing. It's just a different one.
Well, now it's a new tab, but it's
Ah.
not just a new tab, it's a linked tab.
Okay.
So I have this link tab where I could actually pull in Donald Duck here. And because I've linked it to table 1 in the interactions table, the same thing is true in table 1. Table 1 is linked to the interactions table. So one use case that you can use for Airtable is to actually send emails to all of your friends right in here. And we're going to learn how to do that. Others could be having your accounts payable, accounts receivable, having, if you're running Facebook ads, for example, you can automatically scrape in your expenses every single hour or day. You can scrape every single transaction from Stripe or wherever you're collecting payments. You could auto post to social media from Airtable. You could literally run a multi-million-dollar business in all these different tabs. You can link them together in interesting ways, and you can run automations from here. So the first thing we're going to learn is how to communicate with our group. So Donald, Duck, Humphrey, and Mickey. These are a couple friends you have in the database. Now we have this interactions table, and this is where we can say we've linked to table 1, but what else can we do with table 1? We can bring in Donald's first name. So we can actually look up, and we're looking up from table 1, first name. And let's look up his email as well. Look up email. And that way I can actually start writing out an email field here. So, hey, Donald Duck, how are you doing? Just wanted to reach out to say it was great to see you at pub night yesterday, as an example. You can even add a little PS field. Some of you might notice that when you get emails from me, it's pretty generic. It's like, it's pub night again, here's a link, but then there will be a PS and it's specifically asking you something about like your book or something specific about your life. And that's what that PS field is here for. And then you can have a little send email checkbox. So checkbox. So now you have this. Oh, and we can also say like maybe date. So we know exactly when this was sent. or created. And we could change this up to just give you some information about what is in this row in the database. So we can, don't worry about what I'm saying here. I'm just trying to pull in their first name and maybe give it a little space and throw in the date. And Airtable is kind of weird, so you have to do this weird formatting thing. You say the date, and then something like LLL. Oh. And close that up. Close it. First name. Okay, so let's just do good old date. And I believe LL might be wrong. Okay, so we'll just do date like that. One more bracket. Let's give that a go. First name. This is where we need Desiree. Okay, there we go. So just to give it some context for you. So one example of how we can use your database, you have your contacts. You could have your customers in here. You could have your potential, your prospective colleagues, or just your friends. Honestly, you could throw your 150 most valuable relationships in your database and figure out a lot of ways to streamline really important, not robotic, but important connections with your friends, family, and colleagues. So we have interactions, and now you can actually say something like, hey, Donald Duck, Humphrey Bear, and send emails really quickly. And the reason why you can click this button and send an email to this person is because you can head over to automations and we can create a trigger right now and tell Airtable exactly how we want this email to be sent when we click that button. So when a record matches a condition, we're going to say in the interactions table where we're checking that button. And when checkbox or the send email is checked, then we are going to, and we're going to test this out on something. So a trigger is basically what is the thing that happens to wake up a dormant automation. So when in the interactions table, send email is checked, then this is where we create an email. So you can actually very, very easily connect to your Gmail or Outlook, or just send an email through Airtable, but then it will show up through Airtable. Meanwhile, if you send it through Gmail and just integrate your Gmail account, then you could send it from your own email. And here we say to, and we're letting Airtable know it's to the email. We've called it email from table 1. Subject, you can either create the subject field in your database. I can go ahead, come back here and write subject field. And this could be where I'm like, subject, hey. So we can come in here and either create a static subject, like checking in, or dynamic, which means you're going to pull a different subject line for every person based on what is in the subject field in our database. And now we can say, hey, that's some static text, pull in some dynamic text as in their first name. So now we're saying, hey, first name. And this is where we pull in that, what was it called? Email field. We can pull in the PS field. If it exists, it will show up. If it doesn't exist, nothing will show up. And then you can sign your name, something like that. So we can test this. And we see it all come together. Hey, oh, hey, Humphrey, that's Jess. So let's go back and see. We could only test it on Humphrey, where I didn't have anything in either of these fields because I didn't have this checkbox checked. And we want to test it on something where there's actually information. Let's also say, PS, what do you think about Airtable? Subject line, this is the one we wanted to have up there. Okay. So now let's retest on Donald, I believe. Generate a preview. Hey, Donald, just want to reach out to say it was great to see you at pub night yesterday. PS, what do you think about Airtable? That's Jess. So that's the way you can send, honestly, 100 emails in a couple days that are partially scripted and partially unique to the person. If you're trying to, for example, collaborate with someone, you could send out a bunch of emails to a bunch of prospects, but you'll have one field where you say something unique, like, I discovered you, insert blank, or fill in the blank. And that way you're never sending just super, super generic emails. And also it's just a really easy way to keep in touch with friends and family without typing out your name over and over again, or typing out their name to like find it. It saves a few minutes of your day. So 5 minutes a day is something like 14 hours of your waking life. So it really pays off. So that's one example of how you can use Airtable, and you can use it with each other like this. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Yeah, did I see that? Well, you were pulling it up in Gmail, and then you said something about having it come from your email, which was your Jess email. Yeah, your domain. So how do you connect? Because what I was going to ask about connecting it with pulling your address, like from EMS, or just using your domain.
It's very easy. So connect to new account, and you just sign in with Gmail. And that's it. And same goes for Outlook.
You sign through Gmail even though you're using your domain email? Because you've got it hello.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So my domain email is a Google email.
Oh, okay.
But I also have my personal Gmail right
so
here.
It's not going to connect up to like Mailer Lite pulls or or your own domain if it's not a Google domain. Is that correct?
If it's not a Google domain, you could still connect other domains. I have it set up with Google, but I could create another automation where the trigger, where the action is sending an email from other places. So we have Outlook, and then we can, if you don't have something other than Outlook or Gmail, you'd have to use a unique API and go through a few hoops.
3 hoops. But
It's
Outlook,
still
as in like Microsoft 365, it would connect, or do you know?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Good enough.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And while we're here, just to explore some other uses for this, there are different types of triggers. So triggers, again, we're thinking what is going to wake up my automation? So is it someone, I check a button, or a certain date passes, or there's a certain keyword? It's totally up to you. A form is submitted. So if you recall, you all filled out a form, and that form is just a different view of this information. So the form view, I can create a form view, and all of the questions that I ask you will show up here. And then you can input the information or have other people input information, and it will show up in your database. So that is just an example of a trigger you can have. So Someone submitted a form. As soon as they submit the form, send email to the person who submitted the form saying thank you, etc. Now, the other cool things that you can do other than triggers are the different types of actions. And by the way, this is all free as well. So if you have been thinking about, being price conscious about having a CRM tool or trying to figure out how to automate your life without spending a lot of money, this is a really not just a good option, but one of the best options, even when it comes to pay tools, in my opinion. So some other actions, we can send emails, sure, but we can also find and update records. So maybe someone submits a form and their email already exists in your database. You can find that email and then update the whole record, as an example. You can run scripts. So if you're into coding, that's something you can do here. You can connect it to Slack. You can connect it to Facebook pages. So you can actually create posts from your database. You can send images and text from your database to your Facebook page. And you can send text. You can connect to Hootsuite. Twitter used to be here. Well, maybe
Well,
they've got some beef with
it
Twitter.
became X. Maybe it hasn't transfigured itself yet.
Yeah. And then I'm going to, I'll keep my screen on, but I'm just going to talk and not go through the database for a second. There's also other ways that you can layer in automations with Airtable. So you don't see Instagram in here or LinkedIn or other social media platforms, but you can use Zapier to bring in those automations. So as an example, you can import your videos. Let's say you do YouTube videos. You can import them into your table called YouTube production. And you can have your videos dropped in one place, the title, the description, and then just a button where Zapier will give you a link that you can link to the button that says send video to YouTube. And you just click the button and it sends it to YouTube and then automatically brings the link of the now existing YouTube video into your database. So that's one example. You can
Nice.
do some other things with LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter with Zapier. And again, the Stripe transactions, Facebook expenses, Google ads. It's really up to you. Like, this is obviously quite a blank canvas. We just created a database with some names, so some friends that you can email. You can check out their websites and their information. It's a nice, easy way to store data, but also you can really kind of do whatever the heck you want with your database. And
You mentioned multi-million-dollar companies use it. I was on a master class thing for AI just a few days ago. The gentleman that runs Mind Valley has been merging to run his entire Mind Valley off of Airtable with AI, different things that he's weaving in. So and now he'll be reducing his force by about 50% over the next year,
wow,
because he is only going to need literally half as many people. He's been training a lot of his folks that are use Airtable, and the stuff they're doing with it just completely blows your mind. So I was very excited when you said we're going to do this. I thought, okay, well,
okay, I have to check
something.
that
So
out.
when she said that, that's actually true. If you go to mindvalley.com, see if you can find the information on the AI. Well, they had an AI masterclass. The course is like, I don't know, 6 months or a year long, and it's like $9,000. But there's a 2-hour intro to what they cover, and it is mind blowing what this can do. Does Zapier cost anything? You mentioned that other.
Yeah, there's a freemium with Zapier,
Mhm.
and it can do a few things. Like, you get a certain amount of tasks per month
Oh,
that you
okay, gotcha.
can use. So free is better than nothing,
Mhm.
but Zapier, I'd say, is for me up there with Zoom and Calendly in terms of tools that I can't not pay for me
Yes.
because you can automate so many things. I know some of you know the story, but my family business was in a very fragile state when they called me in. They had a director of marketing. He like fudged numbers. He lost millions of dollars in a very short time span, and also outsourced everything. He was directing, he was directing, but he wasn't doing the stuff. And they needed to really be lean. So they called me in a panic and we're like, we have to let the director go. We have to let go of $200,000 in outsourced labor. We need to cut back on ad spend by $450,000. And they weren't even sure if they'd keep the doors open that year. And I had to learn automation really out of desperation because I couldn't do all the things, but I did learn, whoa, I can genuinely replace $200,000 in labor for pennies with like Airtable and Zapier, pennies on the hour, not pennies annually, right? Yeah. So the fact that Mind Valley is letting go of half their staff isn't a surprise to me because there's just so much that can be automated now. James.
Yes, but believe it or not, I did have a question there. You did say
believe
this is, you did say this is free, right?
It's free.
Okay, now in that case, how would this compare to Constant Contact? Is Constant Contact free also, or do you pay for that?
I actually don't know. Constant Contact might also have a premium. Constant Contact pricing. I've never used Constant Contact. Does anyone else?
Okay, well, I was just going to say that a guy tried to, we tried to use that one time, and he tried to give me access to his Constant Contact, but he wasn't able to do that. I just wondered if we went to a free versus pay thing or something like that.
It looks like Constant Contact is $17 a month Canadian.
Okay.
And Constant Contact, I believe, is more like MailerLite or MailChimp, where it was built to send e-blasts. And the good thing about those tools is they're pre-programmed for you to track analytics. So you can see how many people opened your emails and clicked on them and what they clicked on. And there's tools within them, like surveys built in. You can build a survey within your email and then check the stats on who answered it and what they answered. So it's
Really
going to be a
good,
little,
yeah.
it's amazing. Like there's
Because
a
with
reason
some
to
stuff
also
seems
have,
like with some stuff, it seems like you wouldn't know if you're really getting any bang for your buck or not. Well, this, you know right away.
yeah, the tricky thing with Airtable, it's totally doable. And I've thought about
Yeah.
switching entirely to Airtable for e-blasts to your email list. The thing is, you do need to use something like Zapier, where you can get a hyperlink and like a hyperlink that acts as a trigger so that you can create an unsubscribe button. That's the only thing. You have to have an unsubscribe button if you're e-blasting people so that you can at least automatically let your Airtable know, stop sending this person an email because they clicked that button. So that's something you need to program yourself versus Constant Contact. It's built in. So some things to be aware of. But with Airtable, you can create a form super easily and it's free. Yeah, it's free to create forms. So you can collect emails very easily. Not just emails, but a bunch of information. You can collect videos and files. And I'm thinking about doing a monthly contest where instead of collecting emails through an opt-in, I'm collecting emails through a contest where moms are sending their vertical videos in for, their kids' reactions and going back to school as an example for like the first month. And then you get their email, but you also get the video and you get, check, like I consent to this being used in promotional materials. Whatever you want, you can build these forms the way you want them. So it acts like Google Forms, but better. And it acts like Excel, but better. And you can make it into a CRM. You can also make it into a social media repurposing and automation tool, as well as a QuickBooks. So you can build your whole business in one place for free. It's pretty great. It's an $11 billion company, and they're doing pretty good. Netflix also uses Airtable. Jackie.
Yeah, I was asking about the unsubscribed. Is there, see, right now, Square, I use Square for in-person sales, and it is automatically tied to my MailChimp so that whenever I have a sale, I'm capturing that, that sales data for contacts and such, and it's going straight into my MailChimp. And then there's also the cascade for the emails, welcome to blah, blah. Would there be a way to integrate this with the existing MailChimp, or are they standalone?
If you're using Zapier and you want to keep MailChimp, you can use your database to push information into MailChimp. You can use MailChimp to push information into Airtable. It really depends on what you want to do with your automations. And the amazing thing about, now I'm going to talk about Zapier, is that you can automate making sure your data is in sync everywhere. Because we all know, like, you write something down here and then the information's a little different over here. So this way you're leaving the minutia up to robots. And if you want MailChimp, if you want Airtable, and there's a reason for you to have both, then it is a good idea to keep them in sync. And that's where Zapier comes in. But if you're asking, were you asking something else? Like
I'm
replacing?
gonna let you finish your thoughts, and then I have
Oh, I'm
another.
done.
So if what I'm understanding is that this would be an excellent tool for cold calls, because right now I can't do cold emails via MailChimp. So as long as I figure out some kind of unsubscribe, then this could be used for cold emails.
Yes. So you've probably noticed my emails that I send you for pub night look like emails. So it is a lot better than if you have your email list, but the people who maybe unsubscribe, if you want to reach out to them once a year to wish them Merry Christmas, or send them something, one and done, or one and a follow-up kind of thing, then you can still make use of those emails. You can also use those emails to retarget on Facebook or in ads, but I think it makes more sense to cold email once in a while versus, I have personally unsubscribed people if they don't open my emails at least 20% of the time, just to keep the price down of MailerLite, so that
and your percentage, so you don't get flagged as a spammer.
Yeah, and then you can always email the other people once a year, or for like the very special thing.
Okay.
Through Airtable. Susan.
Thank you.
I screwed up my form. It blah, blah, blah. And then when I went to correct it, it wouldn't let me go back. So then I tried creating another account and it wouldn't let me do that. So I don't know what I can do to fix that boo-boo.
You don't need to create another account. You can just resubmit information using the form.
Well, the thing was that when I went to put in my email, there was an extra character. And now I see in what you just went through that I have Yahoo under Verizon, and it's just become so complicated. I decided to just switch everything to my Gmail, which I haven't been using, but I see that I need to do more with Google and forget the other accounts. So even had it not been for the incorrect or the additional character, I still want to change it. So is there, I don't know what to do.
So I think in that case, send me an email with the changes that
Okay.
you want to make.
Okay, will it then let me change my login information? Because that's where the problem was. This happened once before with someone else that I ended up with an additional character. And
You can change passwords, but you can't change the login email. So you'd have to create another account with the email that you want to use, and you can always change your password.
okay, thank you.
Joanne,
Okay, so I get an email from you and it says, "Hi, Joanne," and gives the information. You have to fill in that email beside every single name, or is there like a group? So you just say, "I'll send it to everybody in this group with their name in it."
I have a really messy, let me see if I'm okay sharing my very messy database with you. Okay, so I can share. I just need to hide names. Okay. Let me share what I do with you guys. And it's really messy because I don't share this with people. But this is, do you see my database?
Mhm.
You do, okay. So I'm hiding the names. And what I do is I create something called a junction table where I take members' names, each member, and then each member I tie to a day of the week. So it's a totally different table that links to other tables. And then I have a personal connection field where you get the whole thing. Sorry, you get the whole thing. That doesn't make any sense. Where you all get the same message, and then a PS field where the message is unique. So this field, I put the text in here. Whereas this field, it's just text, right? So if we haven't seen a couple members for a while, I may ask, we haven't seen Darren for a while, so I asked like how he's doing with his writing. And here, this is where I will have an automation set up in the back end. So automation, where if this send PubNet email is checked, takeover guest is empty, send now field contains now, and subject line does not contain no pub night, like a canceled pub night, then you'll get this email. Same kind of concept. You get the email value, you get some information that's static mixed with dynamic text. And I know this looks kind of like gibberish, but if you put square brackets around text and then round brackets right beside it, it turns into a hyperlink. I just know this because I use the tool. So it's like very basic HTML. So that's how I send it. And then basically here, we make sure this button is clicked. And also the time is right. So it's this date and it's closer to this time. So send out now. So that's clicked. And then I go over here. I'll probably have an email to myself. So that's how that works. That's me playing around and making my own database where I didn't want to compromise. Like I could very well have just used MailerLite, and I was using MailerLite for a long time. But this way, because it's such a small group, I really wanted that PS field where I can say what's going on with Bonnie the bovine, you know? So that's how I do that.
Okay,
And
so, all right, so somebody puts their name in your form, opts in, and you want to send them emails, one a week, say.
yes,
The first one is welcome, the next one has something else. And can you do that and schedule them all so that they go out one at a time, or is,
yep. So you set up triggers and you decide what the trigger is, and the way automations work well is if you know how to articulate to a machine what you want in a way that the machine understands. So if you can articulate the trigger is when this button is checked and this date is today and subject line is this, or the person is tagged with this text. You know, if you can say like all of these things need to happen, then you can create the action, which is the email that goes out on that date, or even a series of emails, sort of like a welcome or nurture sequence. So you could set that up in Airtable. And yeah, and going back to Jackie, your question about cold calling, you can also decide, what does a cold call journey look like for someone? First, I'm going to send them an email, and then I will wait 2 days later with a follow-up email, and then I will send them, then I will call them, and then I will text them. I don't know, that sounds like a lot to me, but maybe that's your workflow. And the triggers and actions that occur, well, the trigger is just going to be first email sent, and there's a delay of X amount of days, and there's a condition where they have not replied, then that next email
So
goes out.
is there, okay, is there, for instance, in MailChimp, there's a cascade of if they haven't opened the email, then it gets resent after X amount of time. Does this have that capability to have that kind of feedback?
No.
Okay.
So your options with Airtable are to resend something if they, or send or don't send something if they clicked a button. So there needs to be some sort of link. So that triggers it. Like you can't tell in Airtable if they've opened it. You can only tell if they've clicked on something because you inserted a link and programmed it to send information back to Airtable. So it's really, there are features that are missing and reasons why you might want to keep MailChimp. But you can also, yeah, there's definitely certain times with Airtable where there's manual processes you're going to want to do because you can't do those feedback loops. You can, but not with any knowledge other than manual knowledge that yes, they opened it, or yes, they replied. So don't send this again. Yeah. For me, if I am pitching speakers as an example, and I never send more than 2 emails, but if I want to send the second email, I make it a button automation so that I have some control. I'm like, okay, I know they haven't messaged me back. I'm going to click this button and their follow-up email is going to get sent. James.
Yes, you must have read my mind because I've been looking for something like this. Now, since you said this can link to your Facebook also, do you have the capability of adding some artwork onto a message?
Yeah, so let's jump back in and look at that one because that's
Okay,
actually
cool.
a good one to check out.
Because it's
This-
like, like I wore myself out for my Vela stories. So I thought, well, this would be kind of easy to do instead of doing each one individually,
Yeah, so let's say you have a Facebook posting database. We could do, instead of notes, this could be your post text. We don't need assignees. These are just default fields, kind of annoying. You could have your status fields could be draft and sent, something like that. And then you can have your graphics field.
Yeah, graphics. Okay, yeah.
And this is where you
That's
have a
actually what I was
file.
looking for.
And it's kind of cool. You can pull from your own computer, which
And I've
typically
got,
you
okay.
do, but you can also just look up, fireworks on
Yeah.
the internet and pull right from the internet. So you've got some graphics. You can also integrate OpenAI and come up with graphics on the spot. You can type in, make a monkey sitting on a dog eating ice cream, and it will create the AI graphic. Not the best quality yet. And here's your post text. And this is a draft. And this could just be naming conventions for you. So post 1. And then we can head over to automations. And this is where we can make sure that when record matches a certain condition, and that's where I'd actually want a button, like a send to Facebook button. Could be a checkbox. You can also use buttons and program the buttons to just, you click it and it sends the post like that as well, but checkboxes are easier. So checkbox when all of these conditions are met. So remember, what do I need to articulate to a computer? Text exists, draft exists, graphic exists, this is checked. So when in table Facebook, and just to speed things up, I'll just say when sent to Facebook is checked. But to be prudent, I would say when all of those fields, like when post text is not empty, let's say all the fields, right?
Mhm.
We're going to choose the record to experiment with. And this is where we head down to Facebook pages. I don't even know if my page is set up. It looks like it is. Okay. And this is where you could pull in post text and attachments, graphics like that. And it's kind of hard to, oh, I don't want to test that action. I just sent that to my Facebook page.
Oh,
Can
well.
we stop it? Okay. Okay. I'm
Jess, I
totally
have a
gonna forget.
question.
Yeah.
The image, is that where you're linking to it? I'm thinking of like in PowerPoint, rather than pulling the data and having it reside again, is it just linking to where it resides? Say you're pulling it off of your computer, or is it they're sitting there with the full resolution and having all that data? Like say it's a picture that's 1 meg, and if I have it on my, for instance, the way it's set up on Photoshop, I can have it reside in one folder and I just link to it, and I don't have to copy it every time I use it somewhere else. It's only computers only having 1 meg of memory storage instead of copying it 5 times and being 5 megs.
Right.
Is that what
Can
it's
you-
doing? Is it linking to where it is, or is it fully copying it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know the graphic quality is quite good, but I'm not a that's my opinion as not a graphic artist, where you might disagree. So I'm not sure. I can't answer that question. All I do know is the quality to my human eyes seems the same. And you also get the benefit of having all of your posts in one database. You can also layer on other automations using Zapier or different tools where you then pull in the amount of likes with number, the amount of likes, the amount of comments. You could scrape that data into here using different automations, depending on like how far down the rabbit hole you really want to go.
But Jess, does Airtable have a database for images?
Yeah. Oh, actually, I should just stop or just keep my screen shared the whole time, right? So you
So
could make galleries as well. There's different views that you can look at your information in. It's all the same information, but you can customize each view. You could filter out information and just see things for today. You can customize, you can color sort. So if you want to see things that are in draft, you can see that they're pink. Looks like you can just pick one color. So you can use gallery views. You can do Kanbans and timelines. I believe Gantt charts, that's a premium tool. But I think the rest of them are going to be included with the free package. Calendars are really good. It's like one thing that I like to do is scrape all of my Calendly calls into an Airtable database so I know when every call is happening. And not just Calendly calls, but I'll scrape any calls that I have coming in. Anything in my Google Calendar comes in, and then I can look at it from a calendar view. There's going to be views that don't make sense depending on what is in the table, but as an example, calendar. Let's create that calendar, create a new date field. Yeah, so in this case, it doesn't really make sense just yet because I don't have a date field. But if you did, then you'd be able to see the data in terms of dates as well. So interactions, this table, we could have a calendar view because there is a date field. And then we could see which dates we had interactions with different people. And we could even create grid views, especially for interactions, where you said reach out, it's been 1+ months, something like that, where you filter out anyone who you haven't spoke to. Date is before, a month ago, something like that. And then you have a clear idea, oh, I haven't talked to my niece in over a month. I should reach out to her. Okay, Viv, let's make you the last question because we're coming up to the hour.
Okay. Well, I'm, just starting with MailerLite and have done all my list hygiene things, finally finished all that mess. But for a live experience thing that I want to be doing, I think this would be great for the contacts there because they'll occur in a whole different manner than just, my basic email newsletter. So I could integrate, if I end up using Zoom as the platform, because they do have one level where you can have, if you have Stripe to, they reserve the being in the session through that. So that and managing, I think that would be really good managing through that. I'd have to actually spend some time with figure out how to actually do that. But so I'll need to look at Zapier's level when they go from free to other thing. But this just sounds totally amazing for some different applications. I like the friends and family database thing. As we get older and our memories change.
You can
And I have
send
so many
text
people going on
messages.
vacations, I don't remember when they're going where and stuff. So like,
Yeah,
don't have to ask them like every 2 weeks when I talk to them. Oh, I thought you were going to no, that was somebody else. So I think that
yeah.
suppose for those two things, I see for myself as, mini business person, that would be fantastic. Just gotta
You
figure
can
that-
also send text messages through your database automatically using Twilio. That's a native integration with Airtable. So one use case is to, on your grandkids' birthdays, send a text with a prepaid Visa gift card. Happy
Way
birthday,
cool.
call me when you're up. And then that's sort of out of the way. You still want to talk to your grandkid probably on their
Oh,
birthday,
definitely.
but it just,
But
it's
yeah, it's
like
a
the
time
thing
lag
that
thing
doesn't-
too, it's
Yeah.
midnight when you're, whatever, so that takes care of that piece too. Very,
yeah.
very cool. And considering that time difference stuff, whose time is it talking about when you craft it in the times and the dates and the times? That's your time zone? Is there, could you create another field that did it in somebody else's time zone as far as the grandchild example, not people getting emails, time eternal?
Yeah,
do
you
you know?
could.
Okay.
It would be a bit tedious because you have one certain time zone that
Mhm.
you choose. So you're in Eastern or whatever it is. And then you have another column where you say what their time zone is.
Mhm.
And then another column where you have a formula, an Airtable formula, and you ask it to calculate the time zone. Like you want to send it at their time zone. So then you make sure that they only get the message when that trigger is set off by that formula. And
Very
by the way, formulas are a little tricky, but ChatGPT is quite good with Airtable formulas.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is really intriguing.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if any of you have any questions, like can the free Zapier tool do these things? Then I have a quite good idea of what you can get with Zapier at the different price levels before you pay for a paid Zapier. But sometimes paying for Zapier, I feel like it's a very good investment if you are a one-person business. Because there's so much to do. There's so much to do, and you can really automate like thousands of hours of what you're doing.
Yeah. Vishen, the guy that runs Mind Valley, he says that it's got over this last year, it has given him 2 days a week
Back.
back.
Oh, that's good.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's a big learning curve,
Mhm.
but then when you think about like at the end of the year, how much time you're really getting back, it's worth it.
Great.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Does
I
the
appreciate
output equal the input? The output of
The out-
time and you do in the very beginning, the hours that it sounds like it would take, gonna make up for the 5 minutes a day I'm gonna save.
the 5 minutes a day is here and there. So it's 5 minutes on certain tasks, but it could be hours on other tasks. It depends on what you do in your business. So really think
I
about
think I
your
think I just saw an
workflow.
Airtable flying across the sky right above my head. I don't know.
It's it's not a bad idea to scribble out your workflows. So what your processes are every day on your end, so operatively, and then on the customer's end, what do they go through? How much work is involved with your customer? For authors, sometimes not a lot because you use MailerLite and you send automated welcome sequences, so you're already automated there. But if you're doing cold calling, if you're doing social media, really thinking about how many, just think about how many hours you spend on every single task a week. And then the big tedious tasks, do you spend 5 hours, 10 hours a week? Then I'd say it is worth the learning curve. It's also quite an easy learning curve. Now you don't need to learn how to become a JavaScript programmer. You can pick this up in a weekend.
Well, talking about the
I-
learning curve, it's like, it's like, just jump on to Google and YouTube and say, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? So, I mean,
It
like I said, with
depends
social
on
media, it
you
sounds like
too.
you got to use it.
Yeah,
What I can see is this adding multiple things where I was only be able to get done, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to send out a newsletter today. And I could be sending out a newsletter and cold calls and follow up, like this is not necessarily saving me time. It's allowing me to be in 3 places at once.
yeah,
Which overall does save you time because you're not having to be in each of those places individually, so.
But it just allows me to be more effective.
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah, and really
Yeah.
organized. As
I wouldn't
someone
go that
who
far.
names
That's a
my,
big order right.
as someone who names every draft or every different version of my manuscript, like, man, new exclamation marks. It
In there.
for me just makes me so much more organized in terms of all the other data. Like there's so much data that gets out of sync. Taxes. I don't need to really do my taxes because I automatically pull everything into a database that is it's ready in real time. So yeah, there's so much to do, and everything takes brain power, and that takes you away from your creative work and high value tasks that you could be doing.
Thank you for
but
bringing
it's
this to
pencil.
us. This is awesome.
I'm so happy, Viv.
Thank you for
that
sharing.
you
Yeah.
liked it. Yeah, I'm glad. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm sure John didn't hear everything while he was taking his nap. But I'm glad it was
Boiling
helpful for
over.
some of you.
Exactly my cup of tea. I love it.
Awesome. All right, well, we're over time, but feel free to stick around. And if you have to go,
I've got to
then-
run
Y'all-
too, folks. Have a nice
See
evening. Thanks a
y'all
lot,
next,
Jess.
see y'all
Thank you,
next,
Jess.
next week.
Hey, Jess, I
See y'all
have a
next week.
question, my friend.
Yeah,
One, are you going to make that video? Did I hear, I may not have heard the video that you just recorded? Will you make it available